Yes, thank you. And also on my behalf, a very warm welcome to this brightest Brownbag session. My name is 𝗪𝗵𝗁. I am joined here today with my colleague Tony Antonis, and we both work for Dynatrace. Tony in a technical pre-sales capacity, and I am responsible for partner collaboration, both of us in the Benelux region. The topic of today is all about performance testing, and more specifically about what connects site reliability engineering to service level objectives and service level indicators. Because it was such a long title, we decided to use the abbreviations. Let's talk a little bit about Dynatrace, and then from there on we will go into the topic itself. So first of all, who is Dynatrace? So Dynatrace is the #1 intelligent automated observability solution out there in the marketplace, both recognized by all the well-known analysts, Gartner, Forrester, and so on, but also recognized by customers, and you see a snapshot of those on the slide. We run 25 major releases per year. Why is that important? Because it's all about automation and quick innovation. That's a topic that's near and dear to our heart and actually connected to today's topic of conversation. So with that out of the way, let's take a quick look of why actually today's topic is relevant. Well, the relevancy is really about the digital transformation spurt that we have seen over the past, let's say, 10 to 12 months, but also what is expected over the coming period. So you see some objective data here, but no doubt you have seen something like that in your environment, maybe in the organization you work for, but certainly also outside those organizations. Life has become so much more digital, and probably will continue to stay digital over for the future. So that's one bit. And then given that this change has occurred, it is not possible to keep doing things the way that we have been doing them. So what needs to change? Well, we think two fundamental paradigms are going to change. There's going to be a much increased focus on automation because of increased complexity, for example, but also time to market. And the second thing that we see is that there is a much more need for intelligence, and intelligence not from you or I, but intelligence put into software platforms. So automation is all about, we do too much manual tasks, and therefore we spend too much time keeping the lights on. And intelligence is the much discussed topic of artificial intelligence, which is needed to deal with the complexity and the workloads that we are facing. So this is a bit of background on why we wanted to spend time on the SLO, SLI and SRE topic today. And I want to give you a bit of a flavor of what Dynatrace actually does or provides as a platform. So the software intelligence platform that you see there, consisting of 6 bigger buckets of solutions, varying from infrastructure monitoring to applications and microservices monitoring, and even application security, something we recently released all on top of the same platform. Digital experience, what is actually an end user experiencing when they are interacting with you through a web or a mobile application. Business analytics, what do all these things, what do all these metrics and things that come in mean to the business? What's the impact on the business? And then finally, one that we're going to take a closer look at today is really all about, what about quality gate, service level? We talked about SLO, SLI, and site reliability engineering. So in other words, the automation bit of what we're seeing as the hybrid cloud or cloud automation. So that is my very brief introduction, just setting the stage. And let's go over to Tony to talk about the pipeline delivery.
Okay, so today's talk will be about automating your pipeline delivery chain, which actually means that we want to give you some solutions to deliver with more speed. So we actually did a survey with our customer base to understand where they are today, and you can actually see that for 2 KPIs in front of you, the mean time to repair, mean time to innovate, that not a lot of people were already at the pace they wanted to be in the delivery speed. So we also are looking at the best practices in the market, like the quality gates, the progressive delivery, which you already heard of, chaos engineering, and auto remediation. These are quite interesting best practices where we want, as a product vendor, give you the necessary support to deliver on these practices. Today's subject will be primarily around the quality gates. So the deployment validations we do when you do testing within your pipelines. So when we look at Dynatrace, Dynatrace is actually a solution which is actually integrating with your ecosystem, which can made up of lots of solutions you have out there. You can see here where we can integrate with your DevOps solutions, with your incident management solutions, for instance. So the Dynatrace solution is actually API driven. So we have lots of APIs to actually build that integration between us and your DevOps toolings, for instance. So in the meantime, we introduced 𝗕𝗿𝗄. 𝗕𝗿𝗄, as you can see, is a project within the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, where you can see other projects like Kubernetes, Prometheus. So that must ring a bell with you. So what is 𝗕𝗿𝗄 actually? 𝗕𝗿𝗄 is an event-driven or a message-driven control plane for application delivery and automated operations. Quite a mouthful. So let's go into more detail and explain you what we want to achieve with this new layer. So if you look at your pipeline delivery, you have your specific tools which you use. You use load testing tools, you use your CI/CD tools, you use your incident tools like ServiceNow, GitLab as a CI/CD tool. And on the lower end, you have the metrics provider, which might be, for instance, Dynatrace, where we have our APIs available to build an integration between these two layers. So what we have done, we have put 𝗕𝗿𝗄 in between, and 𝗕𝗿𝗄, which is our control plane, to support best practice initiatives like performance as a self-service, the deployment validation, which is the subject of today, or the automated quality gates, progress delivery, and also the auto remediation, where we have 𝗕𝗿𝗄 also talking to Dynatrace as a metrics provider to, let's say, post back results to your pipeline whenever you do some testing. So what are we talking about today? So we see that a lot of time is spent in manual deployment validation. So if you look at your pipeline, you have a build, you're going to test it, and you're going to run the test, and then there is somebody or a team which needs to manually assess if your build is ready to go or to be promoted to the next environment. And that, as you can see, you have to look at lots of data. You might have functional data, you might have data coming from your load testing tools, and you might have data coming from your monitoring tools, and somebody needs to decide, okay, this is a go or a no-go. And you might already understand that this takes a lot of time, and that's where we actually want to speed up this validation process by 80%. But we want to really get into there and help you to, let's say, enhance the speed of delivery on that side. So what are we using? What are we talking about? We are using actually concepts coming from Google, like a service level indicator, like a service level objective, an SLO, in the end, which will be used to actually make a contractual agreement between two parties. So what are SLIs? SLIs are actually measurable metrics. Think of an error rate of login requests as stated there. What are the SLOs? These are actually your targets, your objectives you're going to be set on these SLIs. So your SLI is captured and you want to have an objective for this SLI, which in this case, an example is then the logging error rate must be less than 2% over a 30-day period, which is actually something typically used in production environment for an SLO definition. So you can actually see some more information about this on Google itself, because these concepts come from Google, and we gladly leverage on them. So already today we are using the SLO definitions in production, so you can actually see in production how your SLOs are doing for a particular service or an application, where you can actually see on them, for instance, a monthly basis, if you're improving or if you're degrading on specific SLOs. Now, the idea was to bring this same concept into your delivery pipelines by doing the so-called shift left, which must be ringing a bell with you, by introducing 𝗵𝗃 and its quality gates, where we're actually going to do the same, apply the same principle on the commits, on the builds, where we actually going to see how the SLOs you defined have scored and allow a specific build to be delivered to a next stage or not. So that's actually something we, with 𝗵𝗃, can deliver as an automated service. So how you will do it? So you've already understood that 𝗵𝗃 as an intermediate layer is integrated with your pipelines, is integrated with your tools, which are typically introduced by the DevOps team. The DevOps team typically decides on which tools to use. That can be Dynatrace, Prometheus, load testing tools, any tool. And first of all, you're going to tell 𝗵𝗃 what kind of metrics you want to capture. In this case, the SLI, you will have an SLI definition. And at the same time, you also have an SLO definition. So the thing that is resting you to do is to start that evaluation for a specific time, for instance, on a specific service, with your SLI definition file and with your SLO definition file. And Dynatrace or the metrics provider then automatically will capture the SLI metrics. The 𝗵𝗃 side will put a score on them from 0 to 1. And then in the end, you have a total score of, in this case, you have 8 SLOs, 8 scores, where 7 are, let's say, scoring correctly, and meaning that an overall score of 87.5, which is then accepted. But at the same time, you might have 4 SLI score failures, where you would not allow a build to go forward. So in the 𝗵𝗃 side, it has its own, let's say, visualizations. We have the 𝗵𝗃 bridge, where you can actually look at your heat map and see the results, SLO results per SLI, visually per build. You can actually see that also in graphing. So we have lots of visualizations for you to look at after the tests have been done and evaluation has been done. So in the end, here in this case, we will use a GitLab pipeline where together with 𝗵𝗃 and then Dynatrace as the SLI metrics provider. So you can also within the pipeline decide to have 𝗵𝗃 initiate your load test, which at that moment the 𝗵𝗃 will tell Dynatrace that there are some specific test step names which need to be used as a tag within Dynatrace, so that you can actually easily see these test step names and all the performance metrics around it. So it's a kind of a logical name passing from 𝗵𝗃 to the Dynatrace side to make logic in the results. So at that moment, when the test has been run, load test has been run, Dynatrace will have the data available, and it will do the SLI and SLO checkings, and in the end, it will do the validation process itself, and it will tell you, okay, you have a success with a score of 85, and you will be allowed to go to the next stage, which can also be handled by Captain, by the way. We are introducing some new visualization dashboard also within the Dynatrace side, so that you can actually see the load tests that have been done by Dynatrace and by Captain, and see how Captain has scored your tests and what's actually happening as a result from this test, so they can actually see and evaluate further. So to conclude, we have developed Captain as an open source project to be used by everybody, to be, let's say, the integrator or the orchestrator between your pipelines and your metrics providers, your data providers, so that you can actually support these three best practice cases, like which you can see, like automated quality gates, progress delivery, and automated operations, which is more about auto-remediation. If you want to know more about progress delivery, automated operations, processes which are actually supported by Captain, please go to our website and have a look how you can do that, how we can actually deploy this Captain layer. And I'd like to thank you for your attention.